As all this hostile noise swirled around him and the playpen where he works, an otherwise quiet Kyrie Irving came out of the shadows only to try to correct the sports industrial complex on a couple of things. First, he tweeted at Stephen A. Smith saying, "You're going to have to explain yourself to people in your generation. I'm not around many 50-plus-year-olds that speak and act like you do, so this is new to me." And in response to Barstool profiting off T-shirts that place Kyrie's name with Putin, ISIS, and Kim Jong-un, he added, "NBA champion and gold medalist. Just thought the statement needed a correction as y'all continue to make money off my name." Stephen A. responded by challenging him to a debate, because of course he did. Barstool responded by adding NBA champion and gold medalist below the names of Putin, ISIS, and Kim Jong-un. Kyrie cannot win this fight, obviously, because we have him so very outnumbered. And the entitlement of fans and media that keep calling him entitled is as great as his own, though we were far less skilled and graceful in earning it than he was. We will snuff him out at every angle, no matter how much humanity he requests and no matter how politely he asks. And we will feel entitled to do it because, like an angry citizen telling a cop we pay his taxes, our passion, no matter how unreasonable, is what funds Kyrie, Stephen A., and Barstool. We feel more entitled to our bad behavior than Irving is to his, even though his skill level is vastly more rare and valuable than our passion. Our need for content will always usurp his need for content. This is not meant as a defense of Kyrie, by the way. His behavior in nuking 3 consecutive successful blueprints is not quite defensible in what we've made of this workplace. But I would like to examine his request, since it is about the only time we've heard his voice amid this cacophony of angry noise he birthed. He's requesting we think differently about how we treat people like him, and our response is to mock and tell him to fuck all the way off. He's trying to sage sports of some spiritual impurities, and we laugh maniacally in his face and tell him he's the crazy one. But he's not exactly wrong that it is odd for a 50-plus-year-old adult to scream for days on television about how someone a quarter century his junior dribbles a basketball. He isn't exactly wrong that we probably shouldn't be profiting by putting his name anywhere near Putin's. In a vacuum, he's probably closer to right in objecting to the indecency of those things than we are in profiting off of them. But he doesn't work in a vacuum, does he? No, he works in the most insanely emotional escape fantasy land there is, a place where it's normal for a grown man to pay $130 for the privilege of wearing his name on their back as a part of their identity. We don't do this for, Tom Hanks, so we aren't going to really hear him above our jeering laughter. We think we care more about basketball than he does, and that's offensive to us as fans, even though it ignores that it can in no way be possibly true. You don't get that kind of good at basketball at his size not caring about it. You don't make the biggest shot in the history of that sport or have the greatest handles we've ever seen by being flippant about your craftsmanship. But it is much easier and more fun to tell him to change his behavior than it is to modify or even examine our own. Ours has been normalized through hecklers and booing and sports radio and debate television. Raining down poisonous judgment upon the entertainer is part of the construct where we work now, accepted, filed under our passion even though we might call this kind of love dysfunctional or even abusive in other kinds of relationships. We care deeply about movies, but Tom Cruise doesn't get this if he's unreliable about showing up for work. The 24-hour channels for music are there to, play or celebrate music. I know that MTV doesn't actually do much music anymore, but the programming there and around Skip Bayless can both be described as ridiculousness. So Kyrie has to treat his workplace with more respect, according to us. But does he? Yeah, of course, we want him to, but does he really? Because he's an employee who keeps getting rewarded by always getting what he wants, even as he fails to show up for work. He just opted in for $36.5 million. We should all have such options. He recouped more than double all the money he lost last year in choosing not to get vaccinated. There aren't many people criticizing him who can get away with doing that to an employer. He began the smearing of his name by jilting LeBron, but now a desperate LeBron is more than willing to welcome him back. Kyrie will make more this year than Joel Embiid and Devin Booker. In other words, for what he did last year, for contributions in creating one of the most embarrassing franchise collapses we've ever seen, he just got a $3 million annual raise. Irving, who just turned 30, is one of the sad faces Adam Silver can point to when he talks about how unhappy his young players seem. They seem to have a different relationship with work than Stephen A. does, that generation, but there has always been a disconnect between the older people who cover sports and the younger people who play them. Kyrie views himself as an artist, philosopher, and like Ben Stiller's Apple TV show Severance, he spent last season asking if perhaps our relationship with work is too lopsided, too irrational. He isn't wrong in requesting more decency at the circus. He's just a fool if he expects in any way to get it. Never mind the mental health crisis facing young people in the social media age or the conversation Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan tried to initiate about it. All Kyrie will ever get from us in the conditional love workplace of sports is the passion. Compassion? That appears to be a bridge too far. You want to be treated more humanely, Kyrie? We're going to make you work for it. And then remind you loudly that you're the one who's entitled, selfish, and wrong.
Do we have Stugotz's top 5 Hank topics just to put a bow on this? And I just want to apologize nationally right now in the front end of whatever the scandal is that's coming our way as a show for being disrespectful. I just want to say now, before I've gotten into trouble, so you don't accuse me of apologizing for the reaction and not being genuine in my emotion. If we were disrespectful there, I don't mean any disrespect. I do not. I just wanted to put the context, the framing around what this show is and the market it grew up in at a time in America, Stugotz, where our divisions are, you're seeing them everywhere, larger than they've ever been. Don't want to normalize that in the afternoon yesterday, celebrating our independence, we're having a mass shooting in Highland Park. And then before you get to evening, there's police officers being shot in Philadelphia. And we feel less safe around here because I'm walking through the lobby today, Stugotz, and there are flowers and pictures and candles.
Sure.
Because, a front desk guy that I met for the first time last week on Monday, that we were talking for the first time I'd ever met him, talking about my father and how he likes that my father's in this building and that the television show. And then he gets shot because there's no disputing that gun safety is a problem in our country, and I don't know what the language is that's the correct language for me to use, so to take the politics out of something that's political, but our country's the only one where this is any kind of normal, where you're wondering at night, sure, I'll fire a gun because it might be harder to detect with the fireworks now as we celebrate our independence, and I'm weirded out because I'm listening outside on my balcony as the fireworks rain to God Bless America, and I've never felt this way about that song as I'm singing it, and I'm in the middle of a day where we've got gun violence, and I know it happens in Copenhagen too, but here more than anyone, we're the best, and you hear witnesses on television talking about, the bodies blew up because these are weapons made to destroy, and not everyone should have them because it's a dangerous time in our country where we're super divided. All very serious.
Number 5,
lunch. Specifically a tongue sandwich. No one loved a tongue sandwich quite the way Hank Goldberg loved a tongue sandwich.
It's a diced tongue, right? They mince the tongue, or is it just one big giant tongue like a fillet?
I never really looked at it. I never asked questions. Stugotz ordered me a tongue sandwich, and I just ordered him a tongue sandwich and imagined it was a tongue. You know?
Really? Like a whole tongue?
Yes.
I have trouble believing that.
That can't be what it is. I don't know what a tongue sandwich is.
I imagine it like the tacos. You ever get like lengua pastor? Like, I just thought it would be chopped up.
What can we do, Mike? Because I don't want any more disrespect around this. To honor Hank Goldberg around here this week. Call the studios Hank Goldberg Memorial Studios.
Because let's not kid ourselves, okay? Hank paved the way, okay? He really did. Down here in South Florida, Hank was an icon. He was a legend. He made a lot of money doing this, and he helped, by extension, helped a lot of people make a lot of money by doing this.
He paved the way and then put up some blockades after paving it.
No doubt.
He was our rival, and it felt damn good to beat him. He's the reason why we were in the gym late at night, every night.
100%.
Working on our game.
Yes.
Real hoopers know, right, Tony?
Yeah. Listen,
He's why we got better.
I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you it didn't feel good to beat Hank. It felt great to beat Hank because in the end I left because Hank really wouldn't go to bat for me.
And nobody would beat Hank.
Yeah.
There were so many great shows and okay shows that tried to go at Hank that were an upgrade. Because Hank wasn't revolutionary radio, but it established the identity, the mountaintop that you had to climb. And for us to do that, to carry like all those failed radio stations on our back and to be like, yeah, in your face, some of your own medicine. That was kind of cool for us.
Stugotz, as a career choice, as I'm trying to make a career through Lupica, because Lupica, sports reporters, all this stuff, I'm trying to come up and I'm flying in New York back and forth every week to try and establish a credibility, to try and be knighted by the golden knights of journalism.
Sure.
And through that, through the journalism done in this market, we were brawling with a lot of guys like him. And it was uncomfortable, and it was made uncomfortable by a whole lot of powerful people, but I still don't know what a tongue sandwich is, and I need your number 4.
Number 4, stadium talk.
So you're saying number 5 is he's talking just about lunch.
He loved Dan. Listen, perhaps 5 is too low. I mean, I'm serious. He loved talking about lunch.
Well, Stugotz, to that,
Just what he wanted for lunch, not your lunch, not anyone else's lunch. Just his lunch.
But Mike, to this end, I'm telling you, as I'm coming up in this market and I'm tired of flying to Sports Reporters cheap-in version number 2 in New York every week because I want to matter in this market.
He hated that, by the way, because he saw that you, Dan Le Batard,
There with Dick Shapp.
Yeah, you're there with Dick Shapp. You're there with
The knighted
Saunders.
Shapp,
You're there
yes.
with Lupica, Bob Ryan, and those were Hank's friends. And Hank, remember, at his core, credible journalist and reporter. And Dan, you know that. And a very good one, okay? He hated that someone else was having the relationships that he only had. He hated it. Could not stand it.
I love that Sunday morning show.
Oh, it was great. You were great on it, Dan.
I remember, it's fondest memories. I'd have my eggs and sausage, and I'd watch Dick Shapp's final monologue at the end. And Bob Ryan would be there, and you'd be there wearing a purple jacket, just totally bringing it down.
As a career choice, though, as I was coming, I told you guys, I got to that Sports Reporters finally with Bob Ryan, and I'm like, that's it? Times Square? That's it? That's all there is? And I got really sad. And then I'm like, what can we make in Miami that feels a little bit better than that? And it was just to fight the machine through doing this thing that we do against him and doing it a little bit differently.
Yes. But you want to honor Hank some way. How would you like to?
I think we should make a big bet at where can we make a bet, Mike, at Gulfstream? And to send the money to his funeral with tongue sandwiches for everybody. I do think we should spend some money here on a big bet in his honor.
Wow. In his honor, we should take the number 7 horse at Aqueduct.
That's all going on right now?
Is it?
Is Aqueduct ever not going on?
I feel like it needs to be Calder.
Shouldn't it be locally, though?
Yes.
I mean, he made racing. He normalized gambling in South Florida. He helped make us the wild, wild west of gambling down here.
If I needed to find Hank, at the time, there really weren't cell phones. If I needed to find Hank, I would drive to Calder or a strip club. That was... Or the place where they serve tongue sandwiches. That's where you would find Hank. I forget the name of the restaurant.
It would be a deli, right? I mean,
yes.
Can you get tongue sandwiches, you think, outside of a deli?
I'm not certain. Yeah, the strip club.
You can't get a tongue sandwich at the slip. That's something different.
Yeah, if you have to ask and can't afford it.
that is, maybe you could get a tongue sandwich.
I'd say the tongue sandwich is the exclusive domain of the strip clubs.
But, Mike, what I'm saying is what the bar was is I'm trying to make a career choice on what do I want to do with the rest of my life in Miami. The bar was, can I do better than taking callers and outsourcing my content to Ed on a mobile? That was the bar that I had to jump over in my 30s if I wanted a different career that wasn't flying back and forth to New York to do a shitty sports reporter show with Jack Ford, hosted by Jack Ford instead of a legendary Shapp.
He hated that. Your relationship with Jack Ford, your relationship with anyone that he had a relationship with, and then those people reporting back to Hank, hey, Dan's a great writer. Dan's a good dude. No. That did not sit well with the Hammer.
We need to stop talking about this. Number 3.
I mean, I love them. The Ponies.
Yes.
You love the Ponies.
Number 2.
Number 2, gambling. But only with Tom Curtis.
You love these Tom Curtis references.
He loved TC.
Of Dolphin Digest.
Listen, TC, he had a weekly spot on the show. They would spend a half hour, okay, pouring over the college lines, the college games, the NFL lines. There was something about TC that he respected. I dare say that he respected Tom Curtis more than he respected Beano Cook. It was odd. It was weird. Tom Curtis wrote the Dolphin Digest. Hank loved having him on. It was great. It was great radio. I mean, it really was.
This is super self-involved.
Oh, he was fantastic. Hank was an underrated radio host, I'm telling you. Like Danny was such a good storyteller, and he had such a unique sense of humor. And he took himself very seriously, and he hated the callers. I mean, I don't know what he asked for him, and then he hated
do
him.
a show without him either.
They were making all of his content for him. It's such a great device. In fact, now it can be finally told. I was simply jealous. It was art form. Outsource your material to callers. They come and do your job for you. You rip them, make fun of them, are mean, and then turn on the local columnist and his newspaper and try and flame him at every turn for 5 days a week.
7 shares. I mean,
Yes, crushing it in the market.
7 shares were a thing.
Just crushing
That
it.
clip that we played where they're talking casually about 5 shares. It's like, what world? What world has had a possibility nowadays?
Neil was doing 10 shares in the middays.
They were cooking the books.
Crazy.
It has to be said. They were cooking the
It
books.
was crazy.
I wanted to ask you guys because we have
number 1 here. So.
Stugotz. We're gonna have a mean El Hassan later in the show. Go ahead, give us number 1, Stugotz.
LeBatard. Oh, did he love talking about you?
And that concludes way too much Hank Goldberg coverage for the day.
Rest in power.
Thank you, Roy. I never got your true opinions on how you feel about everything that has happened here today. As a man who grew up, Roy, you too were shaped by this time in entertainment for 25 years. You chose a career based on some of what these guys were doing.
Oh, yeah, this is a perfect way to send them out. Just disrespectfully. I love it.
Stugotz.
Roy!
Thank you.
Yes, that is true homage right there.
Roy!
I got a top 5 list, Dan, of top 5 contributors to the Sports Reporters, the 9:30 edition.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not that bullshit that they trotted out occasionally on the Deuce. I'm talking the pure cut.
Billy, what are you shaking your head about?
Well, I have a very unpopular opinion, and Chris Cody, I think, would be my ally on this, but he's not here today. I don't like the Sports Reporters. I found it really boring, kind of preachy. I was like, get over yourselves. Let's get on to the next show already. I want to see highlights, not a bunch of guys just sitting around a coffee table. Exactly. Mitch Albom, I was trying to learn, does he have ears? Does he not have ears? What the hell's going on with his hair? Like, it was just
got
weird.
ears,
Yeah.
Yeah, Mitch Albom's ears for a young man. That was.
Does he have
something.
ears?
Yo, he definitely has.
I don't want to
it.
make fun. If he doesn't, I'm sorry.
No, this is terrible. I will not.
This is terrible?
Number 5 is Dan Le Batard.
Hey.
Very odd wardrobe choices. Put on some socks. Number 4 is Mitch Albom.
Staple. I mean,
Yeah. Number 3, William C. Roden.
wow. New York Times.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Number 2, wasn't the biggest fan, but there's just no show without his pomposity. Mike Lupica.
Yeah.
I think it's Pomposity.
Is it?
I think.
How pompous you have to be to correct somebody on the pronunciation of that
Put
word.
it on the poll.
Are you doing a bit?
At LeBatard
Why is
Show.
number 5?
And number 1, Bob Ryan.
Over the course of the weekend, Stugotz, as LeBron James is going to get his guy somehow for Russell Westbrook, which, I mean, bravo on Fountain of Youth late in life. I mean, even cuando lo cagas, because, good Lord, the Laker franchise has been crushed. he might be able to rescue himself, because what a wonderful combination of players to see if they can ever stay healthy. Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron James, like old schooling it at the end, because those three would be formidable.
It's an interesting story because Kyrie going back to LeBron after nuking what happened with the Cavs and not being around there for LeBron to do his passive-aggressive will he or won't he dance, and he got out of there before all of that to end up going back. And this is the only logical landing spot, really, for Kyrie, where there is a need for Kyrie. It presents an obvious upgrade where they can deal with all the BS that comes with it, and they'll actually really improve if they can stay healthy. If Kyrie can get out of his own way, those pieces fit, man. Anthony Davis, LeBron, Kyrie Irving, if they're healthy, that's a team that contends for the West.
The if is the biggest little word, right? Because you can't at this point count on some of these people, and it's hard to keep asking LeBron to be healthy with the kind of mileage into his 40s that you're asking on that man's body.
The most dependable dude is pushing 40. It's wild.
Physically, and it was an old team they built there, but Jeannie Buss, Stugotz, comes out over the weekend. And
not just physically, Dan. I should correct you. It's not just physically when it comes to Kyrie. There's a lot of stuff going on there. If Kyrie decides he gets there, does media day, and the very next day he retires, it's not that surprising. It is an absolute wild card. But because all that that encompasses Kyrie Irving,
I can't believe it can't get more bringing back than Russell Westbrook. That's solving a burden for the Lakers. Like, that trade is gifted to the Lakers for what they would need if you can get this off our books. They were trapped in a prison of salary cap. They weren't going to be able to improve in any meaningful way, and then it was going to all be counting on the health of Anthony Davis. Westbrook was going to be a problem. He opted in $47 million. Anybody listening would say, worst contract I can imagine. For Kyrie Irving to only be worth the Nets getting back, Stugotz, at the end of this experiment, the backcourt of Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook, like just shattering backboards, for that to be all you get at the end of the experiment for Kyrie Irving, and for LeBron to win, and for Kyrie to win, and for Kyrie to say, never mind everything that happened before. I've learned my lessons. I want to go play. I'm going to go back and be a number 2 again with you, even though I wanted to break away from that 5 years ago.
Or number 3. And LeBron needs him. Like, he needs him in a way. Kyrie needed him the first time around, and now LeBron needs Kyrie. But to Mike's point, this is a guy 2 out of the last 3 seasons who has failed to play 30 games in the regular season. Like, there is some risk with Kyrie Irving. I understand what you're saying. It's best case scenario, but still a lot of risk.
But LeBron, the best case scenario for LeBron, this is
Kyrie right now.
But this all is, put it all in the middle of the table. We were in prison here. This is a nice maybe. This is, if we can stay healthy, I'll bet on that. It's better than that team I tried to assemble while desecrating the Lakers. As Jeannie Buss says over the weekend, Stugotz, during this time of frenzy and free agency and Durant leaving, Kobe Bryant is the best Laker of all time. Kobe Bryant, not Magic, Kobe Bryant, and I miss him. And you make that? Can we just sit that out, or are we going to make something of that? Can it just be in honor of Kobe Bryant?
Well, Jeannie also turns off replies for most of her tweets, and she made it known, like, oh, replies on. And everybody, I kind of felt bad because she can't just miss Kobe Bryant, who died tragically. That can't be it. It has to be, oh, she's taking a shot at LeBron James. I don't necessarily think that's what's going on there. I mean, people grieve about in different ways. Lord knows we certainly did with Hank Goldberg. I found it odd that so many people thought that was just about LeBron James. I also find it odd the revisionist history that goes around Kobe Bryant. Now, he's a great leader guy. He's not the guy that went in the parking lot, tried to trade everybody. You know, the guy that strolled into practice, called everybody garbage. I mean, it's a complicated history with Kobe Bryant across several different factors, but especially just as a Laker. He wanted to go to the Clippers. He wasn't rah team first guy all the time.
A rape trial that also involved, Shaquille O'Neal. They patched up their friendship around it, but reportedly, allegedly saying of Shaquille O'Neal when talking to police officers, I should have been doing the things that Shaq suggested you do in these circumstances.
We have some breaking news, and it was expected that this was going to happen, and then Kevin Durant put in for a trade request. Shams is reporting TJ Warren has signed with the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn's still adding pieces, making very curious moves. Why is that? More on that in a second. Kyrie, we were talking about Kyrie's going to the
Big
Lakers.
signing. I mean,
We were talking about Kyrie going to the Lakers like it was done. It should be noted that this isn't done. This is the logical landing spot. The only other team that might be able to put a package that's competitive and where Kyrie might want to go and where it would actually be a winning proposition would be Dallas. It was reported that Philadelphia was in the mix, but Nick Wright's been pretty gospel when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets situation. He said that Sixers stuff was not real. The deal that makes sense is we'll take your problems, you take ours. Russell Westbrook for Joe Harris and Kyrie Irving. And that's a weird way to spin it into a win because Kyrie just nuked Brooklyn. And by the way, this is what I want to say. Kyrie Irving nuking Brooklyn, yes, he's going to get all the blame because of how front-facing he was. Not enough. Not enough heat going to Kevin Durant. Once again, the master of the meat shield. Once again, using Kyrie Irving here. Kevin Durant absolutely nuked that franchise with this. Can you imagine? They signed Kevin Durant. He doesn't play for a full season. Anything for you, dude? Whatever. Get right. You want Kyrie? Yeah, we'll get Kyrie. You want to sign DeAndre Jordan to $40 million because he's your friend? Sure. Absolutely. You want us to get James Harden? Uh-huh. We'll do whatever. And then he ups and leaves?
you want to get rid of James Harden? We'll get rid of James Harden. Yes.
You want to get rid of Kenny Atkinson?
Yeah, you want to get rid of Kenny Atkinson?
You want to get rid of Jared Allen so we can start DeAndre Jordan at the end?
And you don't want to take a leadership position in the public at all when it comes to Kyrie. You're just going to let Kyrie make his own bed, and any opportunity that you could actually rally the troops and be the leader, you're not going to take it. Kevin Durant is kind of skating on the situation. And not only that, he's like, trade me to these two teams. What? I'm going to go straight to the owner.
Well, just because he's requesting a trade doesn't mean he will be traded. He's under contract there.
It's a charmed existence that he got in Brooklyn.
They say they might go into training camp with it. Stugotz, I'm with you on this. I don't know when or what the breaking point needs to be for one of these teams to buck against the star and say, we'll take the ramifications of breaking the look of this, and we're going to send Kevin Durant somewhere else. We're going to send him somewhere he doesn't want to go for the best package that helps our team. I can't believe the Nets are already in position after 3 years, and we could spread this blame around to be one of the most catastrophic things we've ever seen. Never mind when players get power. But the way they've destroyed this, the blame can go everywhere, including, I would say, to ownership, because you gave this team over to them through the reporting of Matt Sullivan. As Kyrie was under the illusion recently that he was going to work with you guys on whatever the next step was going to be.
Work on what, though? He plays 27 games a year. Like, work on what?
But once you hand the franchise over to a couple of friends who are doing whatever they want, including getting DeAndre Jordan, Stugotz, and he has the out of, well, you betrayed my friend. You made him work for the opt-in, and I expected us to be here the next 4 years. Never mind. I'm now demanding a trade. I think you could put plenty of blame here on ownership for not either asserting itself somewhat before this or getting to a point now where you're trading Kyrie for no value. You're trading Kevin Durant with no power to whatever's the best thing that you can get, which isn't going to be Kevin Durant. You're nuking what should have been 7 years of a great franchise of Harden or Simmons. These guys, Stugotz, you were still fearing them as a favorite last year. You thought
they were the favorite 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, the Nets were the favorite to win the NBA title.
The Nets did everything Kevin Durant asked of them, publicly and behind the scenes. They added the pieces that he wanted. They got big deals done and added the likes of James Harden.
I'm guessing he
to their
didn't
nucleus.
expect Kyrie Irving to have to fight for it at the end, that they were a package deal. I don't know what the reporting on this has been, but it seems like that at the end of this, if they had just treated Kyrie however it is that Kyrie thought it was going to be treated, which is this is a 7-year deal we signed up for.
Why would they treat Kyrie the way he wanted to be treated?
But because they always had Stugotz.
No, I know. I get it.
Do you know that to be true? Because I kind of think Kevin Durant has such a perfect fall guy in Kyrie Irving that he's just going to let Kyrie do his own thing, and then we'll build the narrative around it. I don't think that there was an edict from Kevin Durant on how to treat Kyrie. Kevin Durant at every turn decided to not really speak to it. He didn't really want to wade into those waters publicly.
For all we know, Kevin wants Kyrie out of there.
This is a perfect fall guy. Yes. Just let Kyrie do the clown show off season, and then he'll opt in. Dude just left him out there hanging to dry. After he opts in, comes the news that Kevin Durant is demanding a trade. Does that seem like something that's done in concert? No. Does that seem like close friends? Not particularly.
Speaking of close friends, I don't know what was the funnier things from a free agency because we're still waiting, right? Everybody's waiting for the transaction. You need your sports fix. There's not a lot going on if you don't care about baseball. And it's a slow time, so we obsess over Brian Windhorst and taking 2 minutes on television to tell us, to portend a trade, Stugotz. I talked to 4 people in basketball who have made a living in basketball. Not a one of them can explain what the Timberwolves did. I blame A-Rod. You just sent the market through the
Twin
roof
Towers,
for Rudy Gobert, a guy who keeps getting switched off the court, and I really feel like A-Rod got there and is like, look, we're close. We just need some defense. Let's get that guy who can't play in the playoffs because he's too big and lumbering. He's a defensive player of the year, but he can't guard the perimeter. How do we get defense? Well, we'll just get the defensive player of the year. 4 people in basketball, they've made their living this way. None of them can explain what the Timberwolves gave up for Rudy Gobert. Have any of you read anything that gives you an explanation for what it is that they did, that anyone understands? I've never seen a move like this, Stugotz, that no one agrees with.
They struggled defensively. They struggled with block shots and stuff like that. And because Karl Anthony's because his game, Cats, has expanded so much the perimeter, okay, this now frees him up to only play the perimeter. I mean, this is a fantastic move by the T-Wolves.
Minneapolis is Karl Anthony's
This brings me back
town.
to Olajuwon and Sampson. I mean, incredible.
Okay.
It's a great move.
But
when Rudy Gobert is available, Dan, you do what you got to do to get
just
him.
keep going. Just keep going.
Stu, don't do this.
Why?
It's a terrible trade.
How do you know?
Because you gave up 3 unprotected for the Timberwolves. Do you know that the Timberwolves have made the second round of the playoffs once in 32 years?
Yeah.
That team just gave away its draft picks for 7 years.
Because using them was working.
It was.
I mean, they have Towns and Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards was a great pick.
So now they added Gobert to that mix. I mean, and D'Angelo Russell. That's a good team. Solid team. I'm telling you, the T-Wolves, watch out.
They are solid, but you don't make that move to be solid. You make that move to win right now. You make that move for Kevin Durant. You don't make that move for Rudy Gobert.
Stugotz is planting his flag where I've not seen it planted.
Going to Minnesota.
Minnesota does have to overpay. We've seen it in their past. They have to overpay to get stars over there.
But the thing that I wanted to ask you guys, in all of the free agent movement or non-movement, what was funnier? How quickly DeAndre Jordan answered the Denver Nuggets call in free agency, where it wasn't even like a negotiation or tampering or anything. It was just like they got a hold of DeAndre and he's like, wait a minute, I could just go over there and get away from everything I just did with the Nets. I could shuffle away from here and nobody's going to talk about it. In the Sixers Heat series, they couldn't keep me on the court because I was historically terrible against Bam. What? Another contract in Denver? Woo! DeAndre Jordan still out here. They fought for him once. The Clippers did, locked him in his house to not let him go to the Maverick. Or the Miami Heat sending a contingent of sad workers over to the home of Udonis Haslam to try and coax him into a 21st year with the Miami Heat, fending off all other suitors.
I like it being workers as opposed to executives.
It's a marketing department.
I just imagine like 3 people are rounded up over there. You guys got to go to UD's house and make it look like there's a big frenzy for him.
Was there an email that got passed around the building? Because I'm not going to UD's house. Like, what level of the company do we have to go down before we get to the people that go to UD's house on 6 p.m. June 30th?
UD home is even answering the door. Like, honestly, is it possible that they get there and UD's not there?
You want to give me another 2.3 mil? Fair enough.
Why is Bill from community outreach on my front lawn?
Whitty, I love that. You want me to go where? I'm not going to you.
I'm fine. I feel fine. It was like it just knocked me out. I've been pretty useless for a week. And my cough's a little wet.
Right.
But that's it.
Hubba.
And that's where you want it to be, though. You don't want it to be dry, right? The fuck do I know?
Why do you have that Breaking Bad bell next to you?
What?
The bell.
This Amin brought it in. Were you not here that bit?
No, I
Amin
wasn't.
brought it in. It was a failed attempt, and Amin tried to replace the flute with the bell, and it was too faint, and it didn't work. And then the bell was used during weekend observations poorly, and it moved too slowly, and just the show went in a ditch.
It's a slide whistle, by the way.
It's one of the more satisfying inventions,
Thank you, Early.
especially when you do it angrily. You're trying to get someone's attention.
It was one of the. Salamanca using that. It's one of the great uses of a character ever, and he acts so well, never saying anything. Do you know that he's the bad guy in the car in Scarface?
Yeah, Scarface. Yeah, he's not. He's also not Latino. Yeah, he's Jewish.
Yep.
That movie in particular, it's incredible.
How many Latin people are in the movie? Pacino's
Bauer.
sister,
Stephen Bauer.
Stephen Bauer. Yes, is that the list? No.
Is Mary Elizabeth Monster Antonio any?
Ernie was Hispanic, right? The bodyguard. You want a job, Ernie? But Ernie's not a very Hispanic name.
No. Ernie?
Wasn't his name
Ernie Banks.
I can't believe Robert Loggia played
Mr.
Frank
Cub.
Lopez.
Yeah.
Was his name Ernie? Was the security guard, the bodyguard who went over from guarding Frank Lopez to guarding Pacino? Was his name Ernie?
I'm checking right now.
F. Murray Abraham.
Al Israel.
No, Al Israel is
Paul
the one that
Sheenor.
always makes me
Really?
laugh. And yet,
He played Hector the Toad.
what are the movies that you guys will always stop on? Because I will stop on Casino. I'll stop on Scarface. One that I'm embarrassed to admit I'll always stop on is Smoking Aces, just to
Yeah,
laugh
it's a bad one.
at how terrible it is.
It's on often?
Yes.
Really?
A little too
Smoking
often.
Aces?
Yes, so's Reindeer
Wow.
Games. Both of them are on. Casino's on. I can't believe how often Casino is on. And my viewing habits have changed so much. I wanted to ask you guys this. Will you even watch a movie now that has commercials? Will you do it?
The only way that I do is if it's on TNT during the NBA playoffs. Because you just mentioned, is there a movie that you'll stop on every time? That connotes actually flipping through channels, and I don't really flip through channels. I have the channels on my favorites that I know to go to, and I have my streaming platforms. So I don't really have the experience of, oh, this is on, let me stay right here.
That's old habits dying hard for me because I used to love to scroll through the DirecTV scroll when before streaming and before on demand made an appearance, and I haven't broken myself of the habit when I don't want to commit to something for 90 minutes. I'm like, let me just watch 20 minutes of something here. And invariably, Casino or Scarface is on.
Me and Whittingham are still doing it. I love a good scroll. I love the channel surf. I love the channel surf specifically through network television. I really do. It's fun. I mean, it's enjoyable.
Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show, please, Billy. Do you or can you watch a movie with commercials? Billy, can you watch a movie anymore with commercials, or have your streaming habits gotten so that's not something you can do anymore?
No, I mean, but I have like basic versions of a lot of the streaming platforms, so they'll just throw in a commercial here or there, so I don't have a choice.
Will you? So you'll do some of the free stuff like on Hulu or the trial stuff that comes baked with commercials baked in, where they throw in commercials, or for a less premium plan, they don't take the commercials out for you?
I mean, most of the movies don't have it, right? I don't think. And then it's more with like shows. Like Peacock, I get commercials still. It's like 2 commercials. It's manageable. I like it. You know what? I miss commercials. I like a good commercial break every now and then. You know what I mean? Got to get up, drain the hose, if you know what I mean. Sometimes I want to sit there for 90 minutes.
What do you mean? And a hose, really? I wouldn't have had you describing it that way.
My penis?
Why?
I have to pee. I was just
did
trying to
not-
delicately,
I did not.
you know.
I did
Well,
not.
what are you doing there?
I did
mean,
not think. I'll tell you
hose.
what I'm
How
doing.
do you
there.
imagine me? I mean,
Do you imagine most of your employees' penises? Seems like a violation.
I wasn't talking about the imagining of penises
Right.
or peni. I was talking about I did not imagine you having the bold strength to refer to your own penis as a hose. That's what I did not imagine, because it's aggressive. It's something more confident that I would assume in your declarations or any conversations you were having with anyone about your penis.
I usually don't talk about it. to be honest with you. Rarely does it come up in conversation, my nether region.
Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Have you ever referred to your penis as a hose? Yes or no?
I was just trying to think, like I go to the bathroom. How do I say it? Because I'm not going to say,
I mean, Whittingham is here for you in that regard.
Get up and pee. Or if you want to use the correct scientific term, get up and urinate.
And if you must throw your penis in there, you can also just say the word penis. Hose brings more attention to your penis, I think, than just saying penis.
I mean, I was just moving on. I actually have to bring that much attention to it. You guys can sit down for like 90 straight minutes and not get up, have to get a drink, have to go to the bathroom, have to do anything. Sometimes I just got to stretch my legs, I can't sit there for 90, 120 minutes, 180 minutes straight. I can't do that. I have to do things. I have things to do. I'm a man on the move.
I feel like the modern version of a commercial break is flicking the Apple TV remote up so you can see how much time is left. And then you determine based off of how much time is left, either this movie has felt excruciatingly long or this movie is flying and I'm almost done. But that's kind of the modern version of it, is checking how much time is left.
Do you feel any obligation to stay with this stuff? Like how bad does something have to be before you bail on it? Or will you stay with something once you're 25 minutes in? You're just going to go to the end of wherever it is it takes you.
I think streaming allows for me to bail on something quickly if it's not engaging. What Billy said is actually becoming more and more the routine in terms of having those trial versions that have commercials baked in. It's not really trial versions. If you go to Roku, within the platform, they have these things called fast channels. If you go to Peacock, they have like an SNL channel. And we're going full circle now. Millions of people are turning to those fast channels, and it's basically broadcast television all over again.
So they could drain the hose.
Not really where I was getting at.
Oh.
I mean, he had that loaded up for about 90 seconds, and he was going to say drain the hose wherever it is that an opening presented itself. He just had it locked in the barrel and didn't do anything else. He didn't hear any. If I asked him to repeat any of what you just said, he didn't absorb any of it. He was just waiting for the silence so he could lob a drain the hose.
Something about Peacock.
Well, just remember like how a couple of years ago, cable television was dead and everybody was cord cutting and then paying like $18 for the same shit that they used to pay $250 for. Now, a couple of years later, we're going to end up paying $300 to get, the same shit.
It has been hugely flabbergasting to watch how television has changed, and it exists, Stugotz, for the commercials. It's why it's free. Television in its previous form existed so that the advertisers could reach you, and that's what funded everything. And now it's a dance around, I don't want my commercials, except during the Super Bowl when people pay record amounts for the commercials. But there's no putting this toothpaste back in the tube. Like, once you get used to, I get this on demand. I get it my way. I do this my way. I don't think classically we're going to long for a time that everything was slowed down and I didn't get immediate instant gratification.
But Netflix's stock price is going down, and their pivot is, hey, here's an idea, commercials. And that's what they've done. They have a $20 premium subscription, and they will eventually unveil a subscription that's probably $9 or $10 that will include commercials. And perhaps more frighteningly, they will do so with more data than television companies have about people, because they actually know their customers, their buying habits, and what they do. And so they can actually cater commercials more specifically to you. And so everything that is old will become new again. All these streaming platforms will have commercials, and will eventually have a streaming bundle where you can subscribe to 5 different streaming services all on one platform. The cable model existed for a reason. It's because all these media companies have to get their money, and they're going to get their money.
When the thing pops up on Netflix every once in a while, it says, you want to pay an extra $4 to get like super speed 4K LB LTG NQWXYZ clearest version of whatever ever. Do you guys always say yes? Because I always say no. I'm like, get me to my show, okay? My eye's not this sophisticated. I don't need to know the clearest picture. I'm just fine with the other picture, thank you. Because as soon as I finish watching this show and all of that, then I'm going to go back to the other show, and then the other show, I'm going to be like, I can't watch this anymore. You know what I mean? Like, when I go back and I watch some movies that haven't been, like, remastered from, like, the 80s, I'm like, I don't know how people watch this. and I feel like I need an eye exam. I can't see what's going on here. This is too blurry. I don't like it. So I gather yes. Everybody just says yes. They upgrade to like the best version of it.
I know, Billy.
I think most
I'm with
people are
you.
doing what you're doing. They're moving along.
Just stop asking me for money, Netflix. Okay, like stop. You're getting enough. Stop asking me. Okay, I'm not sharing passwords.
seeing it
like,
just fine.
Exactly.
Right,
Right.
yes,
Like
yes.
you should see my account. You should see that I'm paying for my own thing, and just give me the best version for what I'm paying you. Look to see that like 90 people aren't sharing with my password, and give me the perks for being a nice person and paying you what I should. Because I could get your product for free, Netflix. I hope you're listening. If Netflix is listening to me right now, I'm telling you right now, give me the best quality that you have for the price that I'm paying, or I'm going to start looking around for passwords. I'm going to start looking around. Tony right there, he just pointed at himself. I think he has going to offer me a password, Netflix. So just know, if I don't get the best version tomorrow, I'm using Tony's password.
I wonder how much Netflix loses in shared passwords. Just how much money gets lost because people are cheating.
Well, that was another thing that they came out and said. We have to put advertising and we have to find a way to be more punitive when it comes to password sharing because our production company is shit. And for every one good show that we have 15 bad ones. It's never their fault. It's everybody else's fault that's actually using the platform.
Whitty mentioned information, and I wanted to ask you guys on a couple of fronts about information because I've heard some professors talk about this, and it's not that your devices are listening to you. It's scarier than that. It's that your computer has a way formulaically of just knowing what your habits are and predicting your behavior because of what it is you're doing on your computer all the time. It's not that your devices are listening to you, although that would seem scary enough. It's that the computer is smart enough to know what your habits are to target you in advertising.
Did you go back to school or something? Like, what happened there?
Yeah.
You heard some professors?
Just on a
like-
documentary. Professor
nice.
talking on a documentary.
Wow. Teachers talking, huh?
Also, your devices are listening to you.
Yes.
I've run a couple of tests around these. I went to an Airbnb and they had an Alexa and I didn't trust it to actually be off. So when we powered it down, I kept saying around it, ooh, I could really use a pillow improvement. This pillow isn't great. I would love a new pillow. Sure as shit, a couple minutes later on my IG, pillow advertisements on the IG story, and the most terrifying one of all. I went into my pantry. I'm cooking a lot now. Went into my pantry and I got some McCormick's. I'm cooking again. I got some McCormick seasoning. This is a nonverbal thing. I have not used this seasoning in several years.
Great seasoning, by the way.
Well, it was good.
Fantastic, yeah.
You're all going to get IG ads for it right now because then I use it in this recipe. I put it back in. 5 hours later, I got an IG story for McCormick's garlic and herb seasoning. And it's just like, how do you know this?
So you never said out loud, boy,
Never.
this McCormick is amazing.
Never Googled it. Never went on my internet service provider and was like, ooh, I got to get more of that. I had plenty. There's some weird shit going on.
A step further, is now your phone smelling what's near you?
I think it can read your thoughts. Like if you've had some sort of thought about steak seasoning, we're headed toward a dangerous place.
Headed? We're there.
I guess we are there. I guess it's going to get more and more dangerous as they have more and more information on us. And again, I really don't know which of those is scarier as a prospect, though both seem to be in play. That the computers or the devices are actually listening to you, invading your privacy, or that the smart machine in front of you through your habits has more information on you than your spouse knows how to predict your behavior better than people you have human relationships with. Which is scarier of those two things?
Do you think those devices then like mess with us? Because like sometimes you'll talk to them and they will like not understand what it is that's going on. So like you think that like the Hey Google or like Alexa or Siri or whatever is like intentionally like, you know what? Let me mess with this person and pretend not to understand what they're saying today. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Siri, like I want to eat pizza. And they're like, you want a jazzercise? And it's like, no, I said I want to eat pizza. And they're like, oh, you want to go to the moon? It's like, no, I want pizza. So you think these machines are doing it on purpose? Also, do you think machines get bored of us? Because I feel like I'm a boring person. Like if these machines are like taking all my information and spying on me, like this guy, boring as hell. Like let me spy on someone else, you know?
Do you ever, though, consciously try and throw off the algorithm where like you understand, like for example, you pull up your Instagram stories and someone's a little bit too high in the pecking order, so I'll skip over them and I'll skip over them and I'll skip past their stories and I'll try and like chuck in
trying
like
to outsmart
I'm
a
trying to
computer?
outsmart the
You're
algorithm.
playing
No.
Always.
chess.
No.
Really?
Yeah, always.
You're playing chess against
Yes.
and
I know when my TikTok's doing a thing where they perhaps put a scantily clad woman, excuse me. I Stugotz.
Stugotz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm disoriented.
No,
And I was like, I know,
it's TikTok's
TikTok,
plan.
you're doing a thing right now. It's not happening. I'm not falling down this trap.
Have you ever won? Like,
I think so. I think I
Really?
have one. Yeah. I think my algorithms give me what I want them to give me. But it's probably the other way around. I like to think that I have some domain over this.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because I play a bit obsessively, just a word game, find words in a maze type of game. And what happens every 2 minutes is they just launch women at me. Like just every 2 minutes when the game is over, then what I get is just advertising that is just scandal. And I'm like, how is this here? Why is this here? Why are you bombarding me? And then next thing I know, I'm hitting 17 nexts because Pierce Brosnan has a $4 million property that he's selling in, Santa Anita.
Well, yeah, those are those sponsored posts that are at the bottom of every story that they try and get you. And sometimes, like, you'll get a text from a friend, hey, I read this thing. It's like, oh, so you click the headline at the bottom of the article.
Free games, my ass, right?
Yeah.
The free games,
yeah,
is all, the games are all there to get you, to bombard you with advertising.
Do you remember that story a couple of weeks ago where there was a Stanford researcher that was working with a Google product, and he's like, the AI became sentient. It started having its own feelings and started acting independently, and he took a leave of absence. If you Google that story, all the results on Google is like, no, it's not sentient. No one's worried about this, really. It's just all the other side. I love that. Yeah, the third headline I'm looking at Mike's screen, it says, it's a CNN headline that says, no, Google AI is not sentient. Thank you, Google.
You guys have in a factory a bunch of Google robots immediately typing up stories to clog the internet with, we're not coming to take all your stuff.
I mean, if it's a business that I could pay for my own reputation, this is a business, by the way, where you can pay some service like $9.99 a month to make sure that your Google result is prim and proper. Speaking of things that are, you're never just prim, you're always prim and proper.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at LeBatard Show. I didn't think we ever found out what Vim was.
I think Vim is like energetic. I looked it up. It's like having a lot of energy. You have a lot of Vim.
Wait, you pay $10 a month for something to clear your Google history?
Yeah, essentially, is to like make the first page of your Google result look clean, look like, it's professional clips, and if there are any controversies around you, they get bumped down to page 2, 3, and 4. Like, you can make sure that the first page of your Google result is good and clean.
I'd pay a handsome amount of money just for a life purge and just erase everything, all data that you have tracked back to me, every DM message, every AOL instant message that I sent.
Cookie.
Every message board posting that I made under a Plucky Duck pseudonym,
But
just get it all out.
That seems like a good idea for you, right? But for Whittingham, he's lived a clean life. Like, you have a clean Google page. What are you erasing? I mean,
I don't use this service, but I'm aware of its existence.
right, but it's $10.
Yeah, it's
Just
like
like you click past all the scantily clad things.
I do. Make sure my algorithm is squeaky clean.
Mike, how much?
But it is.
How much, Mike? Would you pay? How much would you pay to just know that you have a security scrub of just, hey, all my secrets, all the things that could come back to haunt me from 13 years ago that I don't remember, that I would deny because I clearly don't remember them, but then you would put in front of me and I'd be like, oh, I did that.
I think I could convince the IRS that it's a business expense. It's just self-preservation.
A write-off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would pay a lot. I'd pay a lot. A semester of college is what I'd pay.
For a vigorous scrubbing.
For a peace of mind?
If you could
do you know how hard that is to achieve?
How much does that cost now? Dan's back in school. Do you have Dan going to night school?
Yeah, I did.
Working on his second
Heard some
major.
professors, right?